Life in addiction was insanity. I really didn't care about anything except using drugs and alcohol. My whole value system was out the window. The consequences were great. Probably the first time I used, I had consequences. It's no way to live. It's definitely impacts families. They would go to bed at night and not know if when they woke up if I would be alive when I was out on the street. I remember my mom telling me, you know, when I was in prison, she came to visit me and she said, you know, I don't like that you're in here, but at the same time, I know you're safe.
My name is Jean. This is my story. We have 2 sons, both of them are adopted. We got Peter, and then 2 years later, we adopted John. We wanted 2 children, 2 boys it was. He was just a precious little child, and as he grew up, he kind of went his own way. He was the kid who, when he was at soccer practice and he fell down and the kids were running around, he just laid there. He didn't get up and run after them. Come on, John, parents on the sideline, come on, John, get up and run. And then he did. But he was pretty laid back. John liked to fish from the time he was just a little one. He was an outdoors guy, loved to be outside, much rather outside than inside. And now, many years later, he's fishing again and doing the things he loved to do outside, studying natural resources. Well, there was a very traumatic incident in his high school years. He was a sophomore in high school. He was in a carpool with 3 boys. One noon hour, the guys went out, decided to take the car and go out for a ride. They asked John to go with him. He refused because he had something else he was doing at school. So these 3 boys went out. They went to the top of the hill. We lived on a hill. They went to the top of the hill and decided they called it catch air or something like that. If they went real fast off the top of the hill, they could fly down. They hit a tree. 2 of the boys were killed. John was devastated. We were devastated. Our next door neighbor was one of the boys who was killed. And from that time on, John started on a different route. I think he was so devastated by that loss and the fact that he could have been in that car that he started in a different direction, hanging around with different types of people, getting into drugs, alcohol, and that was the beginning of his journey there. The first thing we did was get into some counseling for Charlie and I because we didn't know what to do. Tried to set parameters for him. You know, if you aren't in by 10 o'clock, you're not going out tomorrow, whatever, that type of thing. We just did the best we could, and we relied on we had a wonderful counselor, and we relied on some of the things that she told us to do. But he wandered further and further away, and when he wasn't living by our rules, when he wasn't in on time or couldn't use his phone and disobeyed, eventually we told him he couldn't be with us. He couldn't live with us. This was a little further on. And so at times he was out on the street and seeking solace with what turned out to be gang members. He joined a gang. And I think that was his family because he felt we couldn't handle it. We didn't know what to do. It was totally foreign to us. And it had become became quite involved with drugs and alcohol. We would lay awake nights, just wondering, where is he now? Is he dead? Is he alive? Where are we going to find him? You know, did the police pick him up again? Something. And just so worried, that he might harm himself, but even more so that, is he driving? Could he hurt somebody else? So we had years of worry, years in prison. I think almost 18 years he spent in prison, in and out. He would be, released, and then he would commit a crime, go back to his gang group, and then he'd go back in again. We're happy. Both of our boys are in recovery. Peter's almost 8 years, and John will be 3 years. And oh, it's so nice to have a good night's sleep and know that they're doing well and not worry about them. We're just so grateful that he found the road. And it wasn't just a nonstop straight line. I mean, he went into recovery, and then they kicked him out of different places, and then kindly they let him come back in. And so he had to do it on his own. Oh, just the best. When a friend of ours introduced us to STEP, I think it was about 10 years ago, might have been, we were blown away by the impact it was having on the people who were working there. And on both our boys were at STEP Industries. And I don't think either one would be where they are today if it weren't for STEP. It provides a reason to get up in the morning, learn how to work, learn how to get along with other people, earn some money. It's just right there. It's the whole thing. It doesn't take 28 days to get into drugs and alcohol. And for a 28-day program to think you're going to float into recovery and be there the rest of your life is crazy. Both of our boys were in the Mooring program a year. And it just makes no sense for these, if I may say, expensive 28-day programs. They won't do it for you. The Mooring is the best. And both of our boys were at the Mooring. They were kicked out of the Mooring. They came back to the Mooring. I think one was kicked out of the Mooring again. And gratefully, they took them back. And finally, we had success with both of them. It's just, we have very soft spots in our hearts for both STEP and the Mooring. John being the house manager at the Mooring and Sandra a house manager at Casa Clare, what could be better? Giving back, you know, he's walked in the shoes that these new people coming in are walking in. He can say, I did this, I did that, don't do this, you know, and help them, mentor them, and know what they're talking about, understand it. And as he says, he's giving back. He got so much from STEP and the Mooring, and now it's his turn to give back. I love the idea that John is working as a house manager at the Mooring. And there happens to be this young lady that he's involved with and going to marry this summer who is involved with the Mooring program as well. It was a long time coming, as I said, 20 years. But I'm not sure I can say it. I love you so much, John, and I'm so grateful that God gave you back to us. Keep going, keep walking the walk you're walking. There's such good things out there for you, and the direction you're going is the right direction. God bless you and Sandra and your life together. Thank you for being our son. I love you.